Imagine the life of this guy. Just a typical fella thousands of years ago.
Now compare that to the life of this guy. Just an average dude living today in an apartment near you.
Walnuts! I hate walnuts!
See any difference between the two? Obviously, the guy living today has a much safer, healthier, and more convenient life than the guy thousands of years ago.
Now imagine a graph of technological progress with the first guy as point A and the second guy as point B.
Walnuts!
What would the line between the points look like? Would it be a gradually increasing straight line showing the development between the points? Or would the line zip up and down and show that in relation to progress, mankind has had severe ups and downs? Truth is, it would probably be neither.
In actuality, this line from A to B looks like this, and it shows that up until very recently, human life basically stayed the same. 3,000 years ago, the life of a rich and powerful Egyptian pharaoh was very different from an Egyptian peasant he ruled over, but it wasn't very different from a rich and powerful European king who lived just 300 years ago.
The rich and powerful had very similar qualities of life for thousands of years, all the way up until this point.
Why is that? It's not that people didn't want improvements. Men have always pondered and tinkered and developed new inventions that made life easier. Think of the wheel, Roman aqueducts, the printing press, just a few examples. But advancements like these were very few and far between.
So why was human progress stalled for so long? And why did things change so suddenly when and where they did?
It wasn't an accident, and it wasn't a coincidence. The dramatic change is called the Industrial Revolution. And today on TBH History, we're taking a closer look at this defining time in history. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Lem.
And this is TBH History.
So where do we begin? The first key to understanding technological advancement is understanding the significance of a thing we call energy. Energy is often defined as the capacity to do work. It's required for pretty much everything. And the abundance of energy is what enables the technology we have today.
Throughout history, mankind mostly relied on 5 sources of power to create energy: manpower, animals, water, wind, and fire. So just remember that technological advancement and progress cannot happen without energy.
Now let's flip back a few pages in the book of history to Great Britain in the early 18th century. Like most of the world, they created energy by burning wood.
But due to population growth, Great Britain started running short on wood, which may not seem like that big a deal, but when wood happens to be your primary source of energy, keeping everyone alive, it's not something you want to run out of.
So British people were in a pickle. A pickle from the wrong side of the tracks. They had to figure out something to replace wood, so they started burning something called coal. And conveniently enough, they discovered that coal happens to store far more energy than most types of wood.
Aha! But there was one small catch. Coal is underground and requires mining, which is not happy days.
The good news was that Great Britain had large amounts of coal as a natural resource. But the bad news is that getting the coal was miserable and dangerous. Because of their geography and geology, mining was extremely difficult.
The deeper British miners dug, the more their mines would flood with water. And as you can imagine, that is not good for miners. Being in a hole in the earth that is filling with water is not an ideal place to find yourself.
This major obstacle held them back from getting the coal that they needed. Once again, they were in a pickle. They had coal for days, just out of reach.
They needed a way to keep the coal mines from flooding. And as we all know, with every problem comes an opportunity. In 1712, an Englishman named Thomas Newcomen began solving the problem when he invented the world's first steam engine.
I have a plan. I like to call it a steamy plan. Yes, indeed.
His new invention used burning coal to heat water and create steam that then could be used to move things like levers and gears or wheels or power a pump. Miners everywhere loved it. We think. I mean, they probably would love it. I mean, people like things that work, right?
Great job, Thomas.
This thing was awesome, but not efficient. Sorry, Thomas.
And eventually, a Scotsman named James Watt changed up the design to a steam engine that could actually revolutionize the world.
Watt's design was just as powerful as Newcomen's, but it required 1/4 the fuel, or coal. He began selling plans of his steam engine design in 1776, and soon versions of Watt's machine could be found in mines across the United Kingdom. It was a good time for miners. Yeah!
With this new invention, mines stopped flooding, miners stopped dying as often.
Yeah!
And coal was now ripe for the taking. Having access to this new powerful fuel opened the door to major advancements. But the steam engine making it all possible became a secret power of possibility and innovation.
It didn't take long for smart businessmen to see how this new machine could be used to even further revolutionize the world. For instance, inventors began trying to power boats, opening the door to a whole new world of transportation. A steam-powered carriage quickly evolved into a locomotive, and by 1801, the world had its first train.
And with the invention of the train came an explosion of new possibilities, as well as an explosion of Western movie story plots.
Hey, aren't you Bandit Bill?
No. All right. 2 years later came the first steamboat, and the English countryside soon was covered with railroads and canals.
The way to get from here to there was changing rapidly, and that was good, because there was more than ever to do. In the years between Watt's steam engine improvements and the first steam-powered trains and boats, inventors and businessmen had been finding all kinds of uses for this new secret power.
With the help of machines powered by steam engines, mass production began to take root, and things like furniture, tools, weapons, and clothes could be made quicker and easier than ever before.
Once Watt's steam engine design started spreading, small factories called mills soon popped up all over England, and large factories were built near trading centers. This was a new phenomenon in history.
For ages, most people lived agricultural lives out in the country, farming and raising animals. Towns were primarily places where people would meet at markets to trade goods. And over the centuries, most trading centers remained small and smelt like animals, and possibly apple butter on a good day.
Cities were very rare, but the Industrial Revolution changed that. Factories needed workers to operate the machines, and waves of people moved from the countryside into towns and cities. Watt's steam engine quickly spread outside of Britain, and the introduction of new technology had similar industrializing effects in mainland Europe.
Cities like Paris and Berlin grew rapidly, but nowhere transformed like England. The Industrial Revolution began in Great Britain, and it's also where it boomed. But why Great Britain? Let's zoom out and take a look. Scientific curiosity was not unique to Great Britain. Inventors all over the world tried to accomplish what Newcomen and Watt did. So why did Great Britain succeed when other countries didn't? Are Britons somehow just smarter? No. Great Britain had an advantage over other countries because they had a political environment that encouraged innovation. Aha! The people of Great Britain were heavily influenced by principles of individual rights. And because of this influence and a long struggle to implement these principles, they had fewer government restrictions than other countries. And it created unmatched rewards for having a good idea and working hard to make it happen. In Great Britain, inventors were free to share ideas and try new things. Investors were free to spend money how they wanted. And businessmen were free to trade and sell based upon supply and demand. And this political freedom created an ideal environment for technological advancement to thrive.
The Industrial Revolution holds a very unique place in history. It gave people access to jobs and products that hadn't been available for thousands of years of history. This paradigm shift gave people new opportunities to create wealth and a new life. Because of this, a new classification of people known as the middle class blossomed.
This revolution would be the beginning of some big changes, and in a matter of just a few lifespans, mankind achieved what hadn't been done over thousands of years of recorded history, things that pharaohs and kings of centuries past would never have dreamed of.
However, not everyone welcomed the changes. From the beginning, the Industrial Revolution faced passionate criticism and even violent pushback. It wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. The world was changing drastically, and there were many new challenges to overcome.
The question was, how would people face those challenges? A question that's still being debated today. Next episode, we'll examine some of the opposition and see what impact it had. One guy had opinions that sparked the biggest revolutions of the 20th century, and his teachings continue to be spread throughout the world today.
All of that to come. But for now, here's what you need to know from this episode. The Industrial Revolution started in 18th century Great Britain when coal was used to unlock new, greater levels of energy.
The invention of the steam engine made coal more accessible and revolutionized the world by powering machines and factories.
The Industrial Revolution was a time when handmade and homemade transitioned to more machine and factory-made.
Thanks to Great Britain's level of freedom from government restrictions, the change began rapidly and eventually spread across the entire world.
Now, as always, it's time to end with a thought-provoking question. Wow, what's the best way for a country to encourage innovation?
Thank you for watching this episode of TBH History. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And also, and your neighbors. If you are one of the few and proud still watching this video, please Post the Santa Claus emoji and tell us why we want you to post it. Be the first one and we'll give you a shout out in the next episode. But for now, it's the time for the shout out from the last episode. Lim, take over. Take over.
It's time for the shout out. Research time to find a comment. Chad Pullman says,
Boomerang emoji, because they got rid of the king only to end up right back where they started. Dash with an emperor. Now that I've scrolled past the croissant emoji on my way to finding the boomerang emoji, comma,
yeah, congratulations, Chad Pullman. You win the shout out. All right, clap for him. Go, clap. You should be happy. Chad, you have potential. I really mean it. You have a lot of potential.
Grapes! Walnuts! I'm trying to like.
Why is there a Egyptian with a cowgirl hat on? I'm gonna take my bucket to the old mine till there's nothing left of mine. This is my puppy Rudolph. We invented the steam engine. Keep steaming, everybody. Thank you for your cooperation.